Hi everyone, Switched Opera here. Today I'm going to talk about another show that is not Madopoly based. And this is actually an anime series called Death Note. Some of you may not have even heard about this series, but this series is actually, well, it's not a kid-friendly show, I have to say that. Probably age 15 rating perhaps. But I will talk about this series and talk about even what my opinions about this entire show. The series is about a young man named Light Yagami in Japan finds a strange notebook with the name Death Note. Inside the book it has numbers of rules. And I won't even go, I don't want to get into it how many rules there are, but basically a number of rules. And I can go through some of them. At first, when Light finds this book and reads the rules, he thinks this book is as a prank of some sort. That if you wrote the name of a person in it, just the name, and the person will die in a heart attack within the next 30 seconds. He believes that this is still as an elaborate prank. Then he takes the note home and wrote down a name of a criminal, of a man who is taking a preschool class as a hostage. And suddenly, the news reporters tells that the man has collapsed inside the building and the police found him dead. Some of the witnesses of the hostage explain that he seems to have some collapsing to the floor if he had a heart attack. But Light didn't know when he believed this. But at first he thought all the details about this book, all the rules. He thought still that it was a prank, but has been very carefully made elaborate prank. But after he had killed the first man by writing name in it, and then he killed another man who was trying to assaulting a young woman. But apparently the book works. But there is one catch to those who use this book. If you wrote down the name a name in the book, it prevents you either go to heaven or hell in afterwards. And those books belong to the Japanese death gods, the Shinigami. And exactly what the purpose is for the book itself for a human. Well, it's like almost for a Shinigami. You can write down any names in it, and even then, Light discovered that you can kill a person the different ways and different methods, like either a heart attack or a random accident or disease. He thinks after that. He meets the Shinigami Ryuk. What do I think about this idea of a purpose of using a book as a weapon? Or, well, yeah, more as a weapon, not as a gun, but as a weapon. Just write down the name and the time person, what can cause the death. If that kind of things even existed in real life, would then if for example, if one person used that and suddenly start to kill, use it, write down the names of some of the world's most biggest criminals, would that make the person a murderer? Even the person having even killed a person in a person. I mean, if a man writes down a name in the book and then kills probably one of the most worst criminals in somewhere in the world, and would that make the person as the writer as a murderer of the criminal? I don't know. Some ethics of this, perhaps people would call it as not as a killer, but others might say, yeah, He is a killer, but even used a new method to kill other people. Just write down a name in a book. Well, if that even happened in the real life, I have no idea if that even would accept it as a weapon. I mean, to use that as a weapon, I'm not even sure if that would even consider as a murder, or but probably as calling it as the person as a murderer. But I I have no idea, since that is just an anime. But since after Light Yagami found out that this book was a real deal, and less than 2 days, or was it 5 days? I think it was 2 days. He had killed over 1,000 people, just writing names on it. And from that moment, after he had taken the life of so many people, he considered himself as the new god of the new world. He wants to punish the world's most criminals and like put all the bad people and all the good and hard-working people into some sort of an utopia. What if that person, if that's even happening in real life, would that have any long-term effect? If that happened, yes and no. Why do I mean? Why I say yes and no? Well, you see, even you do create a world without crime, like if you used this book and then probably started killing all of the world's most dangerous criminals, like robbers, murderers, any kind of this one of the most dangerous criminals. That will people will think that someone out there who is putting a judgment to this world's criminals and brought justice, even though those many criminals has been went to court, but this but the case has been dismissed, and the criminal has been could be free man and do his criminal business again. And then suddenly they find out that this criminal dies suddenly of a heart attack, and then there's another one, and another one. Who can then say if that is not justice? But I don't even know. But for most part of all of this, what when I say no as if this will work? Well, even you do this, even you create a new world with criminal, a world free, a crime-free world like an utopia. How can we not be sure that a new unknown criminal has not been, that the crime can still happen even then? Even you remove all the other previous criminals, but you can't even prevent a new criminals to be appeared. Like in the mafia world, if you remove and one of those biggest criminal boss, probably a new one can take this place and no one after that. So they all like the same thing there. But it's the same, like I said, this has both yes and no, but at the same time, no. To make a world free from criminal by using a death note is not even possible. Because crimes can happen at any time, even you have just made like the world criminal activity drop maybe like say 60 or almost 80% over 5 years. How can you even be sure if that someone, even the criminals out in the world, are terrified to be the next on the list to be murdered by this mysterious way? But even then, for the most part, all of this series is falling about Light Yagami's goal to remove all the bad people he's called the rotten world into a new future of bright, of the hard, good working people by removing all the bad people. The bad people can still appear even in a utopian society. So from Altman is thinking about creating a new world by using a book to kill all the most dangerous criminals. Crimes can appear even in a utopian society, even then. And from other points of view of this book, by following a simple rules that in particular to make a book like this and to have more than like I don't know, almost 100 rules. Like an example, to have to remember all of these rules and even to follow them one by one, it is one strangest. One of those rules, if you wrote the name of a person wrong 3 times, the notebook became a normal book. Then, if you wrote down a name in it, the person would even die. Even one of the second rules is you can't kill a Shinigami in the book. Even if you wrote down the name Ryuk in the book, he would even die. In other situations, if a Shinigami used the book, if the person would have to supposed to live for almost like say 60, then the Shinigami can take the last 20 years and equal this on to expand its own lifespan, and that person die. And if a human take lives of other people, like of someone who's going to be 60 but takes that person's life, the human being do not extend its lifespan. That is one of the rules of the Shinigami and the humans. And one of the rules is you even can't kill. No, if a Shinigami used the book to write down the name of a person who is not supposed to die yet, to save a human, that can kill a Shinigami. From all of this series and from all these episodes, it gets twisted, dark. Not even this is not a child-proof show. I would not recommend this to children, never. Only to those who is over 15 and older, perhaps then. But from 5 and up to 10, no way. This is too violent, even too much death in a comic series, in an anime series from children. No, definitely not. But one of the other characters in the show, named L. He was very much almost emotionless human being. Like Yagami, he was very furious when he not getting his ways, and he was happy to make this to work, but L, not so much. Even he had focused most of his mind to solve the mystery who is Kira, who is Light's new name by the public, which means killer in the Japanese. But from all of this, L is almost like non-human. Even he seems to be very intelligent, but he doesn't show any basic emotions like happiness. Well, it's some part of the moments he show like short moment as happy, but then goes back to serious. It's almost like he has removed all of his emotions, but at the same time, is he even a human being? It is like he's been teaching all his childhood to be like the world's best crime solver as a detective, and this basically he almost has no emotions in the entire show except for a few episodes where he really showed some emotion, but from that rather than he doesn't. And from I can say from Ryuk, in the earliest episodes, he tells that he's just bored, and that he dropped the notebook in the human world just to be bored, and that he was actually just happy to see that Light had used the book to kill so many people. But from Myra, I want to understand what is his personality. He doesn't seem to be happy or just one of those happy moments that like he laughs because, well, I don't mean he's weird. He's almost like a human being, but at the same time he's not. But it's just one of the strange things about this anime series, and also last year they came out with an American live action movie about this series. But instead, from Light Yagami, Light turned to be Light Turner, and L, and also as not as a Japanese, but turned to be an African American. That was a surprise enough. But at the same time, that L in the live action movie and from the anime, they appear to share almost the same their mind and even intelligence. But there was just one different rules from this book. Those rules in the anime and in the movie. In the movie that you can't kill a person like if the person sits on a toilet and you want to roll down, he will die on a shark attack. That doesn't even work. And also, in an anime, if another person touches the notebook, he or she will see the Shinigami. But in the live action movie, Light showed the book for the girl he started to have some interest in. He touched the book. She touched the book, but she couldn't even see Ryuk. That is one of the most part of the movie and running from the anime series. That is the one too big apart from the show and the movie. So why would they make a live action movie based on the anime series, but not to make it like in the show and then from the movie that the rules and the book that allows anyone to see the Shinigami even if the person doesn't belong to this book. No. And also, in the anime, if the person want to give away this book to someone else, the Shinigami has the force to remove all their memories about the notebook. But in the movie, it's not like that. If the book has been separated from its owner for 7 days, the Shinigami can take the book and give it to someone else. That is another part from the movie and from the show. And what did I even say about this series? Well, it isn't not one of my favorite animes, that I can say sure about. It's not this one of the best anime which I think about, at least for the type I like. But if there was, it wasn't not that great. If I had to say, good enough, perhaps. But at the same time, this movie has, from the movie and the show, they had various different opinions about it. The movie, I never saw it completely. I only seen a clips from the movie, and rather from this and from the series, I get compared almost like what I've seen has many differences. In the series, Light, as it as Kira, he becomes as almost like a new god for the public around the world, start to worship him as a god, and even start to build a cult. in the manga series afterward, after he died, there's still thousands of people who still worship him, and even after it had been a year after he died. But there also, in another comic story about Death Note, that takes place before Light even found this notebook. Ryuk dropped a notebook in the human world, and a young boy found it. He doesn't even speak much, he doesn't understand much English. Only the note, then he finds that there's a notebook. Then he wrote down the names of 3 bullies at his school, and they die. And so there's not a predicament. But then, after Ryuk appeared to the boy, explained what the book was, the boy regrets to kill the bullies. So Ryuk gives him a small object, almost like a rubber to use to erase their writings in a book. And that is the strangest. When the names are removed from the book, the next day the bullies were returned back to life. And then he kills the names. The bullies were killed again, but by a different student. And then he removed the names again, and they appeared to lie. So why would that? Even one of the strangest in the series and the anime and the movie, that object has never been confirmed is the piece canon or non-canon. Especially, why would they bring in the manga series but not bring that in the anime series? That it doesn't make sense. Why would, even since Ryuk tells if the person dies, it dies, but then have to use this rubber to remove from a name in a book, and the person appears alive the next day? It doesn't make sense. And rather than it because that this is just an anime, this is a big mystery. But from all of my, I can say that except this show was very much confusing when I first heard about it. I didn't want to see it first, but I did, and I don't regret I did. But for most part of this show has been very confusing. But it doesn't seem to be what I like to see again. But then there still might be a lot of Death Note fans out there. And I'm not saying that I don't want to be offended to any of those fans out there. This is just my own fair opinions about this show and what I think about it. I do say, like in many other anime shows, this was a very great made actually. But would I see it again? Perhaps, if I don't have other things to say. And even then, most part of the series is, well, it took me off guard, if I have to say that. I hadn't even seen the movie itself, but what I see from the movie was more violent and even more, well, more violent, and those deaths were even worse rather than the series, because in the movie itself, you can see agents of FBI walks up on a building and just jump over on the roof. But that happens never in series. The people dies from a heart attack, nothing else. And still, there are a lot of things about this movie and the show itself has been totally different. What I do say about this series is well, it has not well, it's not suitable for children to watch. No, because it starts in some violence, and the movie basically not. I would never recommend no children to see Death Note. Basically, never. At all. So all of the ones out there who is watching the Death Note series over and over, I'm sorry, but I'm not made this video to offend anyone. I'm just doing this as my own opinions on what I think about this series and compare what someone's seen from the movie and the series itself. Even the series is animated, is well made, and is what I think Ryuk could be kind of funny character, but it's most of the time not so much. And I don't think, well, if the series will even, I didn't expect to see much of the series when I first started. It was beyond my expectation about it. But yeah, that was what I had to say on this movie, and you can leave all the comments in the comment section below what you think about the series, about this movie and this series itself, what you think about it, and yeah. And as always, subscribe, leave a comment, and as always, this is Weird Jumbo over and out.